Good on you. Thanks, Kieran.
Joining me now on the program, the Assistant Social Services Minister, Mitch Fifield, and the Shadow Assistant Treasurer, Andrew Leigh. Gentlemen, good morning to you both. Mitch Fifield, first to you. 25 of your colleagues, backbench members of your government, speaking out against the renewable energy target, saying it should be scaled back, that aluminium should be excluded from it, aluminium industry. This is much more than a ginger group, as Graham Richardson pointed out there. This is, well, half your backbench in the lower house of the parliament.
Well, Kieran, it's a great thing that colleagues in the party room take a great and serious interest in policy. I think it's well known that there is a report on the RET that is coming to government. We'll receive that, we'll consider its recommendations, but I think it's a good thing when colleagues seek to make a contribution to public policy debate.
But if you look at what they're arguing it's basically in direct contradiction of what your colleague Greg Hunt has supported as recently as a couple of days ago, saying that this is an important and working part of the response to climate change, that being the renewable energy target as it stands right now.
Well, look, I don't think those colleagues are at all at odds with Greg Hunt. They've simply made a suggestion in relation to altering it. So I don't think that there's a contradiction there at all. As I say, I think it's a good thing that colleagues take an interest in policy debate, that they want to put their views forward. We're not a Stalinist sort of operation like the ALP, whereas as soon as anyone expresses a view, they're stomped on. It's a good thing. It's a sign that our party room is very healthy.
Okay, Andrew Leigh, what do you say in response to that? Because it's certainly a healthy discussion they're having.
Well, I certainly welcome conversations within the Liberal Party, Kieran, but it does trouble me that in an environment in which we know the renewable energy target is reducing power bills, in which millions of Australians now live or work under roofs with solar panels, that people want to get rid of the renewable energy target. Let's face it, it's already being reviewed by a climate sceptic, and we have a Prime Minister who believes that climate change is absolute crap, despite the fact that we've got climate records being broken across the board. Hottest summer on record, hottest winter on record, hottest year on record. I mean, how much more evidence of climate change do these people want? And how much more evidence that our policies are working do they want than the fact that we've just had the biggest one-year drop in emissions in quarter of a century?
But this is not saying that the policy should be scrapped, that it should be reined in when it applies to the aluminium industry, which these MPs argue is adversely affecting that industry. What do you say to that specific economic argument that they're making?
Well, a basic principle of economics, Kieran, is that taxes and charges should apply across the board, and that the more you try and carve out exemptions for particular sectors, the more you increase the impact on other sectors. Scrapping or scaling back the RET would drive up power prices. We know that already, and so this is a very strange call being made by the next generation of Liberal Party leaders.
Senator Fifield, I want to turn our attention now to this interim report released by the government yesterday on the welfare system. This is your area of responsibility as well when it comes to those with disabilities. I want you to, respond to the concerns of those who are currently on the DSP, the Disability Support Pension. What do you say to those who are uncertain this morning about whether they're going to remain? This is obviously going to create a great deal of concern for many Australians and many disabled Australians. What do you say to them?
Well, Kieran, the background to Mr McClure's work is that we want to look at what are the impediments to people who want to work getting into employment. We want to make sure that there is a good safety net there, that there is income support there for people who aren't working. But we also want to do whatever we possibly can to help people who've got their hands up who say, I want to work, to get into work. No one should see the work of Mr McClure as a precursor to anything punitive by the government. It is a discussion paper. It's an interim report. We're going to have a period of consultation. Mr McClure will be leading discussion groups in each capital city. We encourage people to make submissions to the work of Mr McClure. But Kieran, what this exercise is about is doing whatever we can to help people into work. And I know, as the Minister for Disabilities, that there are thousands of Australians Australians with disability who want to work. And if I can quote a prominent disability activist who says that one of the great impediments to more Australians with disability working is the soft bigotry of low expectations. We don't have low expectations about people with disability. We know that they have a contribution to make, and we want to do whatever we can to help people with disability into work.
One of the things that the McClure report suggests is streamlining the number of payments from 20 plus 50 various different supplements down to 4 core payments. What do you say to the suggestion that the reason there are so many payments is because you can't have a one-size-fits-all for not just disability but welfare generally?
Well, obviously, you do need a system that's tailored and that has the flexibility to meet individual circumstances. But if you pull out the Australian Government Guide to Payments, Kieran, which I know Andrew would know well, it's 44 pages long, and that's meant to be the summary. That's meant to be the easily accessible guide to Australian government payments. It's very complex. We can do better. We can simplify it. Mr McClure has put forward a proposition about how to do that. But Kieran, I think the starting point here has got to be, do we really think that our system of income support in Australia today is the best that it can be, that it's not possible to improve it? Do we really think that as a nation we are doing all we can to get people into work? I don't think we are. I think we can do better. And something that really disappoints me is the scaremongering that we're seeing from Jenny Macklin. I mean, we supported Jenny Macklin when she sought to change the impairment tables for the disability support pension. You probably don't even know that the impairment tables were changed. Why? Because we supported her. I hope that Jenny Macklin can rise above partisanship and work with us to seek to make our system of support better, so that we can see more people into work.
Well, Andrew Leigh, is it time for reform when you've got 20 different sorts of payments plus 50 supplements? It does seem to be a little out of control in terms of the number of payments that that the welfare system operates.
Kieran, the basic picture here is that Australia has not seen a larger increase in disability support recipients than the rise in population. And what I worry about when I hear the Coalition talking about this, and Mitch just quoted the soft bigotry of low expectations, which is a George W. Bush quote, is that they want to take us down the US road towards smaller government and cutbacks. And every time you see the government doing a report, whether it's Commission of Audit, whether it's the Federalism Review, whether it's into disability, it's like reading a Stephen King novel. You know, it might be entertaining in parts, but you know things are going to end badly in the end. And fundamentally, this is not a government that wants to improve support for people with disabilities. People who are only getting around $20,000, who have to pass very rigorous tests to show that they're not able to work, they have to search for work for 18 months to be eligible. This is a hard payment to get onto, Kieran, and not a generous payment once you get it. Let's put ourselves into the shoes of people with disabilities. Let's think about what it is like for them to be opening the front pages of the paper today and see this talk of their payments being cut back. Because I don't think anybody believes that when the Coalition says simplification, that means more generous payments. I think everyone recognises it means cuts to the vulnerable while they're giving $50,000 to millionaire families to have a baby.
We've got to take a quick break. Back in just a moment with Andrew Leigh and Senator Mitch Fifield.
Why are taste testers switching to new Finish hand dishwashing gel?
The foam cleaned everything. My glassware was spotless and sparkling. Brilliant.
The foam lasts longer than others, cutting grease and leaving everything clean and sparkly.
The Finish Shine is my secret ingredient.
Its powerful foam technology lasts longer in your sink, so you can clean more plates than the leading dishwashing products. No wonder 91% of taste testers recommend new Finish hand dishwashing gel.
The David Jones clearance is now on. Save 30% on a range of children's wear and baby wear. And save 20% on a range of toys. Shop now for a limited time.
David Jones.
Meet Tickler, a throat tickle. People think non-medicated throat lollies will make him go away, but they only dampen a throat tickle, so he could be back. Try Strepsils instead. They soothe with a great taste and relieve for hours, keeping tickles away long after the lozenge is gone. Don't let a tickle be torture. And for effective sore throat and blocked nose relief, try the soothing menthol vapours. of strepsils, sore throat and blocked nose.
My mum makes underwater fans that are powered by the moon. She makes aeroplane engines that can talk. She makes trains that are friends with trees. My mum works at GE.
Hurry in and take a tax break at Officeworks by June 30, where everything could be tax deductible, like a Hampton trestle desk with multiple storage compartments and a scratch-resistant surface, just $239. This HP OfficeJet Pro, which scans, faxes, copies and prints wirelessly from the cloud, only $248. Plus this Dynastor 16GB flash drive, perfect for backing up your files, a low $9.97. So hurry into Officeworks by June 30, where everything could be tax deductible.
The world is full of rare natural wonders. Airwick has travelled the globe to capture them. So now you can enjoy our best ever fragrances in your home. Introducing the Airwick Rare Scents Collection, inspired by the rarest places. Succumb to the limited edition Rare Scents Collection by Airwick.
On the Pera Report, the very busy Federal Finance Minister, Senator Matthias Cormann, on that Commonwealth Bank inquiry. Will there be a Royal Commission? And what about the FOFA reforms? And what's going to happen to our corporate regulator, ASIC? All that and more on Pera.
Thanks for your company. This is AIM Agenda. With me this morning, Andrew Leigh, the Shadow Assistant Treasurer, and also the Assistant Minister for Social Services, Senator Mitch Fifield. Senator Fifield, before we move on from the welfare review, I want to just take you back to that and ask you the definition of a permanent disability. How would the government go about defining that? Because I know yesterday the Minister concerned, Kevin Andrews, said that mental illness, for example, can be episodic, but it also can be permanent. How do you go about trying to, I suppose, draw the line on who should qualify for more payments over others? It's pretty tough.
Look, yeah, Kieran, the McClure report really didn't have a definitive position on how to define eligibility for particular payments. But you're right. We need to take the approach of looking at what someone's capacity is. So the changes to the DSP impairment tables that occurred under the previous government moved from a medical or diagnostic approach to more of a functional approach. So looking at what the actual effect was on someone's functionality of their impairment. So I think that's got to be the approach, is looking at what someone's capacity actually is. Stella Young, who's a well-known disability activist, she has a permanent disability and she works. A lot of people with permanent disabilities can work, should work, want to work, but obviously there are also people whose disability is such that they will never be in a position where they can work. So someone with a very severe intellectual impairment, for instance, may be in a position where they don't have a capacity to work. So what we should do in any system is focus on what someone's capacity is.
Andrew Leigh, that all seems to make sense, and I guess is in line with what you argue the former Labor government did when in office as well, under Jenny Macklin as the minister.
That's right, Kieran. And look, Mitch is right to acknowledge that was a bipartisan change, that there was an agreement between major political parties that it was appropriate to look at functionality and what people were able to do. But what troubles me here is the cutbacks on some of the most vulnerable in Australian society, at the same time as the government is prioritising giveaways to some of the most affluent. So I mentioned before the parental leave, $50,000 for millionaires, but there's also changes the government's put in place on superannuation, which will benefit people on multi-million-dollar incomes, putting more than $150,000 into superannuation. And you've got changes being made in tax policy, which will see $1.1 billion given back to multinationals in profit shifting. So you've got to see what the government's doing in a whole package. Cuts at the bottom, increased giveaways at the top. after a generation of rising inequality, Australia needs this like a hole in the head.
Senator Fifield, there are a number of changes coming into force on another area of your responsibility in aged care as of July 1 tomorrow. Can you talk us through exactly what the government is implementing in that sector?
Well, Kieran, I think the most important change is the My Aged Care website, where aged care providers will have to publish their products and their prices. There'll be a lot more information for consumers. It'll be easier for them to consider and compare the offerings of different service providers. But also coming into effect is the elimination of the distinction between high care and low care. That'll mean greater choice for individuals. Also, in terms of how they pay, individuals will now be able to provide or pay for a bond or a daily fee or a combination of the two. There's also new means testing arrangements coming into place, and there's a fee estimator on the website where people will be able to put in their assets, their income, and get a good indication of the payments that they're likely to be liable for. So more information and more choice.
That all seems to be common sense there, Andrew Leigh, from the government?
It's terrific, yes. And when I did a forum in my electorate with Mark Butler announcing what his movements in the aged care area, there really was a recognition that this was long overdue. And so Mark Butler's package of getting more information to people, I think, is vital, because you make decisions about aged care at sometimes crisis points where often mum or dad has had a fall and you're considering your options. And better streamlining those options is great. So the Butler-Fifield package, I think, is a good one.
So a bit of bipartisanship there to finish. Senator Fifield, thank you for that. Appreciate it. And Andrew Leigh,
thanks, Kieran.
Thank you for